welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to get into my thoughts on the new Viseart. This is called the Paris Love Letter palette. And I went ahead and picked this up on the Muse Beauty Pro website. I have a lot to say about this palette, and the review didn't quite go as planned for several reasons. It was a struggle. Bottom line, it was a complete struggle. I had a lot of issues with this palette. We'll go ahead and get into that later on. The thing that attracted me to this palette in the beginning was these three shades right here. I love a peach, I love a green, and I love a lilac purple. It was like, I had to get it. But there are some issues with this palette, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. I'm going to jump into the application footage, which again, did not go as planned. I planned on doing 3 tutorials with this palette like I normally do, and it didn't work out that way, not even a little bit. So let's go ahead and jump into that footage, and I will see you all in my final thoughts. I'm going to create 3 looks with this palette, and yes, I want to try all 3 of these shades. These are the shades that made me buy the palette, so I really want to use them and, give my thoughts. I don't have any concealer on. I only have my brows done and my foundation on. I'm going to start with the green shade. I want to see how the green shade applies. When I was swatching this doesn't feel like a very creamy formula. It feels more of a dry formula and almost like a sheer formula, which is really interesting. I had different expectations from this shade, so I'm kind of curious how it's going to apply. I'm going to first apply it dry, see what that does, and then if I need to dampen it, because I think with that shade I might need to dampen it, y'all, I'm going to go into that shade and I'm just going to put it on the lid. Now this is dry. It seems like when you apply it dry, it's more sheer. Like it just doesn't have it doesn't have a lot of intensity is my point. Like it's not very vibrant. It's soft. It's a softer green, I would say. I'm assuming that if you apply, oh, look, okay. So normally you'd probably want to apply these with your fingers, but I have nails, so it's not always the easiest to apply shadows with your fingers. So as I kind of went like this, it like wipes away. Do you see that? It's so sheer that it like wipes away. Let me show you. Okay. I'm going to go back into it. I'm going to apply a bunch right here. Okay. And normally with a shimmer shadow, you can kind of take your finger and kind of pull the shadow, almost like you were swatching it on your lid. But watch when I do it. It like removes it. That is very disappointing. So this is probably a shadow that needs to be applied wet. Because it seems like even when you put your finger in it, it really shears it out, which is really weird. I don't quite understand that. So I'm going to go ahead and dampen it with some setting spray. Apply it dampened. And it just, I feel like this is a shadow that you're just going to want to put on and leave it. Like, put it where you need it, but don't start messing with it too much because it might just blend it completely away. Which I'm a little bit nervous about taking like the matte shadow into the crease, So I don't know. That's kind of disappointing. So I'm going to grab this shade and I'm going to put this shade in the crease. Okay, so this shade doesn't really want to work that well either. It could just be because it doesn't have a lot of tone to it, but it feels like as I'm applying it, it's like blending away and kind of disappearing into my eyelid. I'm putting it on and it's like I have it there and then it completely disappears. It is the weirdest shade. What in the world? Now, I haven't watched any reviews on this. I don't know if anybody else is struggling with that shade. I don't know how anybody feels about this palette. I could just be the only one, but this is kind of weird. I'm gonna grab this shade, I guess. Hell if I know. And I am going to put it right over top and see if I can kind of like bring some peachiness to this look. I don't know. Like at this point, I'm like, what the hell do I do? Because that shade like keeps disappearing on me. It's like the disappearing act. Now, don't get me wrong, it could be because of my skin tone, you know, more of like a medium with like a golden undertone, and it could be because it's just not dark enough to show up on my skin tone. But what's weird is when I first put it on, it shows up and then it's gone. Okay, so now I'm going to go back into the disappearing shade, this one right here, and I'm going to go over top and just see if that peachy color I put down will kind of give it something to grip to, because I don't know what to tell y'all. It is like not staying put. And those two shades together are just not working. It's like, maybe I gotta go into a different shade and try to like blend this out. I'm gonna go into the dark shade because I really don't have any other options. I'm gonna kind of bring this like right here onto this outer corner. I need to go into the green shade, and I'm going to try to like sweep that up into the crease. I'm going to spray it because I know that this shade also does kind of a sheer disappearing act. This is just not turning out the way I had hoped, I'm going to be honest. So I'm going to kind of go and place that kind of up into the crease to kind of blend it up into those matte shadows. I'm going to grab this dark shade right here, and I'm going to put that on the outer corner, kind of blend it into the green. I'm just not happy with the way that this look turned out at all. Like, at all. I'm kind of actually disappointed in the shades that I used and just the color that it created. My point to that is sometimes when you grab like a neutral brown and you go in with kind of a peach, like a warm peach, it will really kind of warm up the crease and kind of give some depth but warmth, and I'm not getting anything. It's like they're blending together and kind of turning purple. It's because it doesn't have any depth. Like there's no depth in the shadows, and so they're just kind of building on top of themselves and not really kind of coming together. If they had more of depth and a little bit more creaminess to the formula, then I'm just not living for this. I'm gonna go into this shade. I want to see what this shade looks like alone. I'm going to bring that right along the lower. See, that shade is pigmented. I'm going to wipe this off in my crease and start with this shade because I think this shade just has a terrible tone to it and like no depth to it, and it completely ruined this shade. So I am going to take my makeup wipe and I'm going to clean my crease off. I will be right back. I'm going to go into the peach shade because I do think that peach and green are very pretty together. And yes, I did use a smaller brush here, so I got really good pigmentation with that. Okay, I'm going to bring that into the crease. Okay, so I think I dipped into that shade about 6 times, and this is the amount of pigment that I am getting. So keep that in mind. So far, I'm just really kind of disappointed in the amount of pigmentation that these shades don't have. I feel like I need more skills that I don't have to make this palette work. Like, I feel like I need a lot of skills to make this palette work, and I just don't got it. I don't have what it takes, I guess. I just don't know. I don't really want to go into the dark shade because I feel like the dark shade kind of turns everything purple, but I don't really have a choice because I don't have any other places to grab any depth from. So I'm going to have to go into that dark shade, and I'm going to bring that over top out here on this outer corner, but I'm going to like apply it really lightly so that it doesn't overtake the look, but I don't really have any other options in this palette to work with. Okay, I'm done. This is terrible. I'm gonna wipe this off, and I am going to show you guys what the shimmer shades look like. I'm not even gonna attempt to do a look with this because it's impossible. this palette is pretty much not going to be usable for me. And I'm going to kind of go through why. So we have 3 shades right here, these 3, that are so light, I can't use them as a transition in my crease. It's pointless. I don't understand why they put all 3 light shades that are really not that pigmented, by the way, in this palette. It made it too light. I know that we use light shades like this when we go in with a dark shade and we need something to kind of buff and blend it out with, but we don't need 3 of those in a 12-pan palette. First of all, that's number 1. There's no depth to those shades. Absolutely 0. Number 2, this is the only transition shade in the palette, and it is absolutely terrible. Like, one of the worst I've used. Number 3, this shade is okay, but it doesn't have the right tone to work with the shimmer shades that I want to use in this palette. So this palette for me and my skin tone is pretty much unusable to create a look with, but I don't want it to be a complete waste. So I want to show you guys what the shimmer shades look like. So my plan is I'm just going to put them on a brush, blend them out so you can see what they look like. At this point, that's only thing I can really do with this palette. I can't create any beautiful looks with it and give anybody inspiration because this palette is kind of unusable for me with what's in here. Now, yes, I can pull from other palettes, but it kind of defeats the purpose of the review of this palette because if you're at home watching and you're wanting inspiration and I'm pulling from other palettes that you may not have, it's kind of pointless for you. So I don't know where else to take the review from here. It just, it's kind of disappointing. I'm going to be honest. So I'm going to go into this first light shade right here, and I'm going to put that on the lid, and I want to show you guys what that shade looks like dry versus wet. So this is what it looks like dry with no water. So this is what it looks like dry, and it blends out really beautifully. And then on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and dampen it. I'm going to put it right here on the center. So that shade is actually really pretty, and it's got some thickness to it, so it doesn't wipe away like that green shade does. And you can see that you can build it up and have just a really pretty sheer, or you can go in and dampen it and really make it vibrant. So I do really like that shade. It is really pretty. Okay, let's go into the next shade, which is this peachy shade. This is the shade that I was most excited about because I love a peach. And this shade is really pretty, and it swatches really beautifully. So I'm going to go into it dry first. I'm going to put that right here. Look how beautiful it is. I mean, it just is one of the prettiest peachy shades. It's so pretty. Look how pretty that is. Now I'm going to grab it and I'm going to go into it wet. So I'm going to dampen it. This has also got a lot of depth to it. So it's definitely one of those shades that you can really build up the intensity. I mean, look at that. So you can take it from very sheer and just really build up the depth. So I'm kind of surprised by this palette overall. Now that I'm able to kind of take it and just really drag it, I was not able to do that with that green shade. As I dragged my finger across it, it just was pulling it from my eyelid. So I don't know. There's just a lot of inconsistencies with this palette, which is very interesting. Okay, we already know what the green shade looks like. Let's go into this shade right here. I'm going to put it on dry and then we'll go into it wet. Okay, so this shade is really weird. So that brush just was not picking it up. Okay, so this is another one where you got to pack it on. If you want anything from it, you got to pack. So I'm going to go ahead and dampen it now, and let's put it dampened right here so you guys can see. This is not a good shade. I can already tell. It's somewhat like the green texture. It's the same texture as the green, and it is not a good shade. It's not a good shimmer shade. Okay, let's go into the purple shade. And this is going on dry. Ooh, that is pretty. This palette is the weirdest freaking palette I've ever seen in my life. Why can't the green shade apply like that? That is stunning. What is the deal with this palette? There's so much inconsistencies. It's mind-blowing. I don't get it. I don't get it. Let's go into it wet just to see what intensity we get. Oh, that shade. That's definitely a beautiful shimmer purple. I mean, it's a beautiful lilac color. It's so pretty. It's just so pretty. But the problem is there's no mattes in here for me to use with this beautiful shade. It's sad. It's final shimmer shade. This shade right here. This is like a really pretty silver color. Let's go into it dry first. Okay, so this texture is somewhat similar to the green one. So it's like as you start to kind of pull the shadow, you'll start to kind of wipe it away. Okay, so it doesn't have any thickness to it, doesn't have a grip to it. It's more of a thinner shadow. I'm gonna go ahead and dampen it. Okay, so that's what it looks like dampened. And this is, if you want any vibrancy from it, I recommend it dampened just like the green shade. Oh, this is definitely not the direction I wanted this to review to go in, but I think you guys hopefully will understand where I'm coming from, because this is very frustrating. So that's it. That's pretty much all we're going to do. I will go ahead and finish the rest of my makeup. We're going to go ahead and jump into the swatches, and I will see you guys all in my final thoughts. Okay, so now that we've made it through all of that, let me go ahead and get into my thoughts. If you have more light medium skin, you might enjoy this. I don't know. Some of the shimmer shades are a little bit crappy, which we will get into that in just a second. But this is definitely not for like medium tan, or deeper skins. Period. End of story. I just would not waste my money. There's so many palettes out on the market with beautiful shimmer shades that this palette has. It's just not necessary, right? They wasted 3 of the 6 mattes that are in this palette. Complete waste, like 3 of the 6. So then you're left with this shade, which you could tell was very hard for me to build in my crease. It looked great underneath the lower lash line, but did not build in the crease whatsoever. And then this shade is a hot mess. Then this has a weird undertone, so as you build it, it just looks weird. There are only 3 shades in this palette, in my opinion, that are worth it. This one, and this one. The rest are just not so much. So this is a huge pass. A huge pass. I think this palette will work for those who have more light medium, okay? If you have that skin tone and you like something that's very light and you don't like a lot of pigment, then this might be a palette for you. But if you're somebody that likes a lot of pigment, you do not want to waste your time on this, because there is no pigment in this palette. I was really disappointed in the green. You gotta pack it on, spray it down, pack it on, spray it down to even make it look beautiful. And that's just pointless. Like, why put such a beautiful green shade in a palette and then have it look like that? I don't know, I'm kind of disappointed. And this happens to me all the time with Viseart. One time I will use a palette and fall madly in love, and the next palette I buy, I just absolutely do not like. This seems to happen quite frequently when I buy Viseart, which I don't like the inconsistencies. It's hard to really fall in love with a brand when there's just so much inconsistencies with the formulas. And I don't really have a lot of Viseart in my collection, but as I begin to get more and more, this balancing of one time I'll buy it and it'll be great, and the next time I buy it will be total crap. This, in my opinion, is total crap. And I'm just being honest. You guys know I'm a brutally honest person, and this is just not a good palette. Needless to say, it just didn't work for me at the end of the day, and I hope that this review was helpful. Sound out down below in the comment section. I'm curious how everybody else is feeling about this palette. Like I said, I've not watched any reviews. I haven't heard anybody speak about it. I don't know if I'm the only one that's just like, is this for real? Are you guys kidding me right now? Like, I don't know if I'm the only one. I'm interested to watch other reviews and hear what people are saying, especially when it comes to these two shades right here. So the green and this shade, they are weird. This shade is the worst transition shade I've ever used. You put it in and it blends away. It has the best disappearing act I've ever seen. And this reminds me of a drugstore palette. And I've even had better pigmentation from an e.l.f. palette. So I'm not quite sure what the deal is, but this reminds me of like those little Maybelline palettes, those little like city lights or whatever they're called. I can't remember. But every time I would use those, it would be like I would put it on with my brush, and as I would blend, it would do a total disappearing act on me. That's how this shade is. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life. And this shade, such a huge disappointment, because this shade is kind of the star of the show, to have that pop of lime green in there, just to really get you excited for spring and the colors and everything. I was so excited. Huge disappointment. So those are my overall thoughts. Sound off down below in the comment section. Let us know. Are you guys having the same experience I am? Let me know, because I don't know if I have, I don't know. This palette's so bad that I kind of feel like I got a dud. That's how bad it is. So maybe I got a dud. So let us know in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in today's video. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in my next video. Love you. Bye.